Well, we don't like to talk about it, you know? I mean, it's something that's really personal. And sometimes
Yeah.
reading things about why relationships fail force you to face those things. And I think that there's a lot of people in relationships that would rather have a dead relationship or maybe not want to do it. I don't know. Do you feel different about being divorced after you wrote the book than prior to writing the book?
Um, Not really. What I find weird only is that I still have to file my tax return as a divorced person in Switzerland. I'm like, when does that go away? When am I just single again?
Yeah.
But I don't honestly think about it too much anymore.
Mhm.
It I just feel a lot um I don't know, I just feel a lot more grateful. I feel like a lot more grounded
Mhm.
and more mature, I guess. Yeah.
If you were gonna pull, like, a point out of that book to share with guys, like, you said you were hoping more guys read them. Like, let's say that a lot of guys are watching this podcast, or a lot of guys are watching this and read the title about your new book. What is a piece of advice you could give them while they're still in the relationship, and a piece of advice you could give them after they got divorced?
Okay. So first one, while you're still in a relationship, um to the extent you can, try to have a like a relationship update every so often where you literally ask your partner like, are you happy? You know,
Mhm.
are is there anything that you want to be different? Like, just but be vulnerable and try not, I mean, it's hard to do, but you know, lower your defenses, ask what's good, what's not good, what you can do better, what you would like more of. Um, make This is where I could have done better, which is make more effort at the romance. Because after a while, you just kind of get used to each other and you fall into your routines. And I could have been better at, like, I don't know, just getting her flowers every once in a while. Like, I wasn't great at that. Um, be more creative sexually, maybe, right? Instead of, because it gets kind of routine, you get into it and you kind of know what you both of you like and what works. But then try new stuff, go to a class, yeah, learn tantra together. Like, I don't know, just keep it interesting. Those are the two things I would say, or three things I would say during.
Mhm.
If it still doesn't work out and you do go through a divorce, one mistake I made was to try to rush the process because I didn't like how I was feeling. I didn't like feeling like a loser, like I couldn't be loved, and I didn't feel like myself anymore. So I was maybe rushed to try to get back to feeling like I was myself again. And yeah, I think I skipped some steps doing that at first. And then it came back later to bite me in the ass.
Mm.
So it's gonna suck. Like, just plan for it to suck for like 2 years and be very weird. Um, and try not to rush the process and just do whatever you can to address the pain and the bad thoughts and all that you're experiencing.
You said you wanted to get back to being yourself. Do you ever get back to being yourself? Are you a new person?
I meant the confidence part because
I
it's
see.
confidence. Like, for me, it was like a confidence killer. So I
Mm.
didn't feel like my confident self for a while. And I got back there pretty quickly, but like I said, I skipped a few things, and then it bit me later. And then I went. It was almost like this. It was like down, and then up, and then down worse, and then up higher. And I think that that was why that happened, is because I tried to battle it too much.
It's interesting. I was, I think, 11 when my parents got divorced, and there's this weird cloud of shame that hangs over it. And I've experienced it as a kid. Like, I was ashamed of my parents for getting divorced. And I'm wondering, did you feel this thing of shame? And if so, like,
Yeah,
what is shameful about it? Like, what did you find shameful about it?
I mean, it's on some level, it's just embarrassing because, like, you had everyone come to your wedding and
Mm.
see you profess these vows of eternal love in front of everybody, and then a few years later, it's like, "Oops, I got that wrong." And now it's like, all right, well, I don't really wanna get married again because it's like, "Okay, I'm sure this time. I got it right this time, I promise. Everyone come back." Right? So there's a little bit of embarrassment about that, and just it's more just it just you lose your family because I literally lost my wife's family. I was pretty tight with them, and it is somewhat embarrassing, and people it feels like, whether it's true or not, it feels like you get judged for it a little bit.
Yeah.
Although not so much anymore because so many people get divorced now.
Yeah, but there's still a stigma about it, and even if maybe there's not as much of a stigma about it, the fact that you feel there's a stigma about it, now you just when you see people, you're like, "Oh, they're probably judging me," or, it changes you psychologically in some ways.
At first, I thought that. I don't care anymore.
No.
Like, but in the beginning, yeah, I definitely felt the shame and the just a feeling of failure. Like you went all in, you lost.
Mhm.
That sucks. But hey, it's almost a rite of passage nowadays. So, you know,
Yeah.
everyone going through it, definitely everyone, a lot of people. That's, I think, one of the main things that opened my eyes was like almost that it was almost like kind of a happy arrogance. 'Cause I'm happily married and
Yeah,
I can't
yeah.
believe people get divorced and like, why does that happen? Everything is so cool. And I don't know why these people not happy. And then it happens to you and you're like, oh shit, this is the experience of like literally half the population. Like,
Man.
I'm not unique in this. Like, a lot
Right,
of people have done this, and it's
right.
way worse for a lot of people probably than it was for me.
Yeah.
And then it really opens your eyes to the human experience because then you think, wow, like how many people were abused? Like what kind of messed up stuff was going on? I was lucky in that nothing really overtly bad happened, but there's a lot of situations where that's not the case. And they're just stuck in these horrible cycles and emotional loops.
You know,
So, like you
there's
said earlier, I think your trauma and pain does end up letting you connect with the people because, like, seriously, you're not unique in that.
yeah. I'm curious. I know that, you know, well, I was born in California, and I know I've read a little bit about the laws only because I came from a broken home, and I that kind of caught my ear from time to time, and I spent most of my friends came from broken homes. It's weird how that kind of happens, but there was this idea that um if when no fault divorce came onto the scene, that that it became easier to get divorced and more people did get divorced. Do you think that if it wasn't easy to get divorced, that it would be better for people? Like if it was very difficult to get divorced, might that be a better situation for families?
That is a very interesting point, and I think there is merit to that. I don't know what should be done in
Mhm.
terms of legislation, but I do think I've come to believe anyway that at the end of the day, love is a choice.
Mm.
And people have this idea of like, oh, I fell out of love.
Mhm.
This person isn't the one.
Right.
Okay. But you have the choice to just go, you know what? This person's not perfect. This relationship is not perfect. I'm just going to choose to love this person anyway and just try and make it work. And I think I haven't spoken to people, married a long time,
Yeah.
but I think that a lot of them say that you just have to choose the person and then like choose the person that chooses you. So yeah, to kind of reinforce what you were saying, if it's harder to get divorced, you might have more of that incentive to like, okay, I'm just gonna make it work. I mean, obviously there are cases of if the person's being abusive or whatever,
Right, right.
you can't do that. But I'm assuming it's a more or less functional relationship, but maybe the spark is gone. A lot of people use that as an excuse, but I think you can work at that. I think you can choose to value the good in the person, choose to keep it mutually respectful, and try to see them for the things that you once valued in them. So the no fault divorce does make that less. You don't have to fight. There should be a little bit of a fight if you want to make that last. And I think that maybe if that were the case, maybe I wouldn't have got divorced, because we literally like went from happily married to divorce within like 3 to 2 months. Because it's just so easy to get out. We literally just had to fill out a couple forms, go to court, pay the court fee, and that was it. Dissolved. And to me, yeah, there's something about that feels a little bit weak.
Yeah. It's you can see it in modern day where people that are this is just an anecdotal idea. I think this, and I've seen some cases of it, but it doesn't mean it's something that happens all the time. But divorce on some level seems to be a measure of affluence. Like if you have enough, you can get divorced. But people that don't have a lot, that are both struggling, a lot of times those people will stay together because they need each other. And it's more than love. It's like, I need this person. Like I need them to take the kid over here. I need their uncle to help us, or I take care of the mom. And like this idea of the family working in a way where people are not only in love, but they need each other. And maybe that's part of the love. Part of the love is like, I rely on them. I love that, when you have, there's a great quote by, who was it? I think it was Gore Vidal was talking to Hillary Clinton, and he said, he was at a dinner party, and he says, "Hillary, why is it that so many men hate you?" And she goes, "I think it's because I remind them of their first wives." And like, it's this idea. My sister investigates corporate security fraud, and she's constantly investigating a lot of high-end white-collar criminals, and they're all like on their third or fourth wife, and it just seems that when you achieve some level of something, maybe you can only love one thing. Maybe you could only love your career or your family, and maybe that changes back and forth. But I think I think I'm kind of bird walking here, but yeah, I think that if it's difficult to get divorced, whether it's because of financial needs or spiritual needs or just needing the other person, I think it adds that other dimension in there to make that bond stronger in a weird sort of way.
Yeah, interesting idea. The idea of dependence being
Yes.
an element to love. Whether that's good or not, I don't know, because I don't know where I feel about this, honestly. Like, something I
Yeah.
thought about it quite a lot, where I felt, no, I want independence. I want like us to choose to be together because we're not dependent on each other. But I don't know if that's the way. Like, I question that.
Yeah.
I really do.
I don't have the answer either. I don't know. And the model I had, I always thought that, you probably get divorced at least once, and like that was a model in my family. Like most people have. And, I don't know. I think maybe luck plays a big part in it. Like all things, I think
Yeah.
maybe waiting till you get older plays a role in it. When you're young, I have lots of friends that were younger, and, maybe they got drunk and had a crazy night, or you're just so much more impulsive when you're young. You're not making great decisions, and it's there's so many moving parts in there. But it's interesting to think about all those things. Maybe the fact that we're thinking about all those things now is something you should think about before you get married. But how would you have that experience unless you were? I don't know. It's
I don't
interesting to
think you
think about.
can. I mean,
You're
I just
right.
think everyone goes into marriage sort of idealizing it. And
Sure.
as I read about a little bit about the book, a lot of it's like movies and this idea that we're
Right.
taught of this soulmate thing and this everlasting bliss that we'll receive when we get married. It's almost like this weird club that no one tells you the secrets of. Like, you just have to go in.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, there's a luck factor. If you manage to find that right person that's willing to fight and willing to get through the period where like you kind of wake up from your drunken bliss,
Right.
whatever the first few years of the relationship, and go, oh, okay, this is more what it's about. I mean, this isn't really necessarily what I was told, but it's nice anyway. Like maybe this is good enough for me, you know? Um, so yeah, I blame the media or the movies industry for that. But yeah, it's a game of luck because my ex-wife on paper seemed like my perfect match, you know? I'm like,
Mhm.
I had no doubt about it. I'm like, yep, I want to marry this chick. We have all this stuff in common. It's awesome. Love her family. And then, you know, it is what it is. It's a luck game. She didn't want to fight or whatever, or wasn't happy and didn't tell me or whatever it was. So it just, bad luck, I guess. And you always
Yeah,
think that you're choosing the right person, but you can't really know until it gets challenging.
yeah. It's a it's an interesting conundrum to not know what the other person is thinking, especially you don't really have any control over what that person tells you. You know, if they choose to not tell you things, like you would never know.
Yeah, and there's way worse examples I've heard from friends
Sure.
that were involved with narcissists
Mm.
or sociopaths that they thought they were in love that they thought the person was in love with them. Turns out they had like 2 or 3 other girlfriends who all thought the same thing.
Mm.
And and then as I write in the book, like I never really knew. I guess I never really knew my ex-wife what she really thought because what I saw and lived was different apparently from what she was feeling and thinking. And then, yeah, I mean, how can you really know anybody? Because we're always like, I'm figuring myself out as I go. You're figuring yourself out. It's this evolution. I can't say I 100% know who I am because maybe in 5 years I will be somewhat different. So if we can't even know ourselves, how can we ever hope to truly know another person? Um, and maybe they're not. Some people conceal themselves on purpose, but I
Mhm.
think a lot of people do it without realizing it, just because they don't really know themselves, and then they grow. And then the challenge is, are you just with the right person that you can grow in that framework together and keep it going, or do you just grow too differently? So that's the luck part, I think.